Well, Daniel, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you
Yes.
say a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, I'm 82 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've been making. Uh, After I retired, I've been making toy airplane gliders, and I have progressed through where I'm going to do a Guinness World Record, and I'm going to shoot 100 airplanes, toy airplane gliders in the air at one time. And before this, a little background, I grew up in Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City, around Oklahoma City. Uh, in 1960, I went in the Navy, spent 4 years in the Navy, and then after the Navy, I was a merchant seaman for about 4 years
Wow.
after that. And then I came to Texas, and I wished I'd came here sooner. I love Texas, and I love the atmosphere. I love the people. I love everything about it. You know, I love the deserts, the mountains, the prairies, everything, the forests.
Hmm.
So we mustn't forget the forest because it's a wonderful place.
What got you into the airplanes, the little model airplanes? Do you remember when you first got
Yes,
interested?
yes. Well, I first started off. My middle daughter. I raised 5 children. My middle daughter uh, had an idea for Thanksgiving and for all of the family, the immediate family,
Hmm.
uh, you know, uh, to go up in the country in Austin, which is, it may have been Georgetown, but we uh, had a cabin park, and we had Thanksgiving there. And I had made rubber band guns for the kids to play with.
Sure.
And
I've seen like the
it
little
was
six
supposed to have
shooters.
been, you don't shoot any people, you don't shoot any pets, and of course, when you weren't looking, they did that. So the rubber band and everything, and then I got home, and when the grandkids would come over to visit, they would turn on the TV and everything. I said, no, no, no. I see you every 3 months. I want to do something with you.
Right.
You know,
Something that interests you and that's exciting.
yeah, I want to do stuff with you. And so I started thinking, well, what in my youth did I enjoy doing? And uh, I had these little balsa wood airplanes.
I remember those. I mean, they had like just the gliders, but you also had like the one with the rubber band you can spin, and then it
Yeah.
would like fly.
And so I said, well, but I knew that I didn't last very long with those because you would throw them, they go about 5 foot, hit the ground, you'd have to straighten them back up and everything. Well, I started from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, well, I can make them do better. And I progressed into where I can make them fly really high and really far uh, with rubber bands. And it's just, it's been a God saver for me because it gives me something to think about and to do. Otherwise, a lot of one thing I found out about retirement is that most people, when they stop working, okay, for all their life, all of it, there's always been someone that's looking for them to be somewhere at a certain time
Mm-hmm.
and to do something and do it. when you retire, yeah, your spouse is there, but you're on your own, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And most people start eating more,
Mm-hmm.
okay? They stop doing, so what do? They get fat and they get old and they, you know, and so this has been a lifesaver for me.
Everybody needs a hobby, something to
Always something,
focus on.
yeah. And I enjoyed this so much, as you know, to make these planes do better. And in fact, the more that time that I spend making them, the more things that I learn. And it this is a little background.
Okay.
The Wright brothers started this way. They
Sure.
started with gliders,
Right.
small hand thrown gliders, and then they developed and made bigger ones. And everything. Well, if you think we could make a man glider, and they did.
And you know, the thing is, everybody is probably familiar with the fact that they had a bicycle shop, but I think whenever I originally heard that term, I was like thinking about the bicycle shops of the day where you go and buy the bike, they do minor repairs and things like that. But bicycle shops in that day, they manufactured bicycles from like raw materials, you know, and so
Right.
they like had the skills to actually create something new and different instead of, you know, I mean, and somebody in their shop actually created the gasoline engine and manufactured that for their plane. It's really amazing the skills that people had at that time to actually.
It was totally amazing. And out there was people all over the world that was trying to make things that fly. I mean, but you just look at a bird. Just it's amazing how fast birds fly. You just see them move past, but they are flying at maybe 100 miles an hour, or 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. They're really, when there's no friction in the air, it's incredible.
Do you think we would have learned to fly if we didn't have birds already flying?
Probably not. Probably not. It would have been it. No, I think that, but I don't think that they have found so many of the things that had feathers, and they, and actually, the birds are I think we'd always have birds. I don't, I kind of got a little mental.
No worries.
I mean, I don't think quite as fast as I used to. I mean, I'm older than Biden. Okay.
I've been asking people about NASA going back to the moon, and I was just doing some mental math, and I figure 1969, you were in your 20s or early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it like to see humans actually walking on the moon?
Well, my mother was alive then. Okay, my mother was born in 1922. And she was so amazed that somebody from the Earth had actually walked on the moon, that she was just completely flabbergasted. I mean, she was just astounded by the ability of humans leaving the Earth and traveling 250,000 miles, which is incomprehensible to us. Okay,
Yeah.
we can say 250,000, but we don't really. That how many times around the Earth would that be?
It'd be about. I think the Earth at its equator is about 24,000 miles.
Right.
So it'd be about 10 times around the Earth.
Yeah. So and it's just incomprehensible about the and it's always fascinated me, the moon, because and I lived in this area for a number of years, probably going on 40, and I've talked to a lot of NASA people, and I've worked at NASA, and the when it actually happened to me, I was pretty well wrapped up in my own situation. So, I mean, I was. I don't remember whether I was at sea when that happened. It was in '69.
69. Yeah. I think.
No, I was
July
here.
of
I was here,
69.
so I must have seen it on TV, but I don't recall seeing it on TV. But I've always been fascinated by the moon, and and then living next door to Hal Loden, which was the guy that was mission control at at Apollo 13. Now, I know that he's been interviewed for documentaries and stuff, but I wanted him to write down his memoirs of what he's seen, and of course I don't think he did. So
It's something we always plan to do, but then time moves on, I guess.
yeah, well, when you get priorities and things like this, and times are different when you have people expecting you to accomplish something, and then you retire, and that doesn't happen. There's no one there saying, get out there, do something. Go do it. If you don't do it, I'm going to let you go.
They're like, okay, I'm already let go.
Yeah, I'm already let go.
Yeah.
And it's
some people get like a life coach, somebody that they actually pay to kind of figure out
give
goals.
them direction.
Well, maybe you work on the direction yourself, but then add some accountability to it. Somebody say, okay, you said you wanted to do this. What progress you make in the past week? That type of thing. That could be useful.
It is, but I have friends who are also retired, and one travels. He has a travel trailer, so he travels, and he spends a lot of time. He has a granddaughter that's into horses, and she competes, and he and his wife, they do that a lot. I have one friend that actually just takes care of his yard and his house, and he walks, and his wife walks, and that's basically all they do. I have another friend who was he was in the Marine Corps, and then he got out of the Marine Corps and became a teacher. And he loved teaching. And he went he taught for probably 20 years, and then he went overseas and worked for the government teaching electrical systems and stuff to different people. But he retired, and now he has a group that he belongs to where they go dancing all the time, and that's what he does.
My wife and I, we play pickleball. It's been very
I tried
popular.
that, but I can't. It's hard for me because I have arthritis in this hip. I can't bend over and get down low.
That's a problem.
I can do it up here, no problem. But I miss all the shots that are down there, and I'm blind in this eye.
Wow. I had a question. Back in the 1960s and early 1970s, did you have the sense that eventually space travel would be as common as air travel and it's just a matter of time? Or did you always feel that space travel was something different and it wouldn't follow the same kind of development?
In the 60s, I never thought space travel was possible. There were too many movies of scary things coming from space and taking over people's bodies and eating us like in the Twilight Zone.
Oh no.
And Buck Rogers, when I was a kid, Buck Rogers was, I didn't pay much attention to it, but there were people that followed that. Other kids I know that did that, but I never gave much thought to space travel, really. For one thing, it really didn't affect me, and so it wasn't a priority. It was things that NASA did, but I didn't work to NASA until I was like in my 60s. So, but my wife's father worked at NASA in the early 60s and he passed away, but I don't know. Right now, I have, from my perspective, if we don't find some way, there's no way that humans can survive mind-wise intact to go to the nearest star.
There's some thoughts of maybe you put them to sleep and then they wake up when they get there, or maybe they're on a huge ship and it's big enough that they can go about living their lives, having children, and they may not arrive there, but their great grandchildren arrive there. A generation ship, they call it.
Well, when I was in the Merchant Marine, it's kind of like being on a spaceship. You're out on the ocean. You work 8 hours a day. The rest of the time, you spend an hour and a half eating. You spend 8 hours sleeping. Sometimes it's 6.5 hours. But all of it is looking out at the ocean at nothing. I mean, it's the same. It's the same horizon. The ships that I were on were not very fast. 12, 12 knots was about, probably about the average. Well, it takes 2 weeks to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to Vietnam, you're going to Japan or the Philippines or anything, it's a 2 week trip. And I was doing this when I was 20s, and I felt like I was wasting my life. So the point being is, it's perspective. I could look back and when I would hit port and I would see how everybody's living their life, but I wasn't living my life because most of my life was at sea. When you spend a small time in port, and that's great, but then you spend a week or so moving around with looking at the same people.
It becomes a little monotonous. And
it gets monotonous, and here I am 20 years old, and I say I want to have a family. I want to go to a movie if I want to. I want to go out to eat. I don't want to eat what. Now I got fed good. I have no complaints. Whether I was in the service or when I was in the Merchant Marine, I got fed better in the Merchant Marine than I did in the service. But you don't have the options. There aren't any options. There's no options. It is what it is.
Take it or leave it. Those are your options, right?
That's it. And that's it. Now the people, the older people, I was in my 20s, but the people that were in their 30s and 40s, these people were loners. Okay? These people wanted to be there. They liked that life. And I'm talking about the officers, I'm talking about the men, and but they are definitely loners. And to be in space travel, it's going to be the same thing. Your perspective, it's the same thing every day. You can't go down in the street and go to a movie. You can't go to a park and watch your kids play. You can't own a dog. You can own a dog. They can bring you can animals on there, but it's not nearly the same. And I don't know if they're going to have to be with artificial intelligence. The plane can go there. The spaceship can go. It's not a problem. It can go there without human intervention. You're sleeping or whatever. And, animation or you don't have to be conscious for the plane, for the spaceship to do. However, the most amazing thing about the body is the mind. I don't know if you've ever thought about a thought. how does a thought get in your head? How do you turn a thought into reality? And that's where we started. You know, in Africa, you know, way back when. We started there with wanting to get something to eat, food. That's what you. And for most of our human existence, that thing right there has been the primary motivation: is getting food.
Fear, food, and reproducing.
Right, exactly. And that's, you know, and the richest person is the person that has the most water, the most food. Reproduction takes a back seat to that, okay?
Yeah, food and water, for sure.
Yeah, food, water.
Because those are immediate things. Without those, you can't go on.
Yeah. And but being on the moon, I feel like that it will be totally beneficial. I know that the moon dust is that's one of the things I think they found out was that the moon dust, if it gets in your lungs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's unhealthy.
Very sharp, jagged.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they are designing spacesuits to shed the dust.
It's a big problem. It definitely gets talked about.
Yeah.
But talking about that, did you know that NASA's planning to go back to the moon?
Do I know? Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Well, what do you think about it?
The things that we can learn by going back to the moon are we should do it. I mean, that's why I think we should try.
Hmm. When you think about the future of humanity, if you were to think 100, 200 years out, do you see humans going to space like they might today go to the top of a tall mountain or to Antarctica? People, it's something that's more common. Maybe even you have people living in research outposts in places.
There has to be a reason. Okay. I mean, why don't you go to Boston?
I've gone to Boston.
Okay.
I even
let me change that.
I even lived in New Hampshire once.
Okay.
And then it started snowing, so I came back.
Why don't you go to Ontario, Canada?
I haven't gotten there yet.
You don't have a reason.
I don't have a reason
to go.
I don't have a reason.
Okay. And a person on Earth to go into space have to have a reason. It's a dangerous place. If something happens, something can happen here on Earth, but usually, we have planned for it. We have special services, firemen, policemen. We have hospitals, blah, blah, blah. If you go into space, what is the gain?
Well, one thought is, here on Earth you have pandemics, society's reaction to pandemics, the threat of nuclear war, terrorism, a whole bunch of things like that. And you can't really control a lot of these variables, but initially you'll have a very select group of people that would say set up a colony on Mars that would be somewhat isolated. Some people may choose the physical natural dangers of living in a place like that over kind of the unpredictable social, societal dangers that you have here on Earth.
But here's the problem with this. Well, and that's probably the reason that we expanded across the Earth, and the human condition across the Earth
Mm-hmm.
was the reason, you know. My ancestors, the first ancestor of my line came from England.
Hmm.
He came in April of 1642. Do you know what happened in 16?
Was that the potato
he-
famine?
No.
Oh,
He,
the Black
in
Plague?
in 1642, the same year, they had the English Civil War,
English Civil War.
and my ancestor, well, it was a family. It was a family, a man and his wife and his son, and they came from England in April of 1642. In August of 1642, the English Civil War got started. It wasn't said or anything, but they were very religious people. The son migrated. They came in at Lynn, Massachusetts, and they lived there for a while. The son joined a group that went to Long Island we're talking 1600s, okay? Wild. And there was a woman that had a group, a religious group, and she wanted to go there and set up this group. And he went with them.
You might have a similar type of thing with people who want to sort of live in these communities with very different values than the mainstream, which is very hard to do here on Earth with the kind of continuous influx of culture and pressures from the rest of society. That those groups might be motivated to create some physical distance between themselves and the rest of society.
And here is, no matter where they go, humans' nature is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The most trouble comes from economies or countries that have a single leader. When you have England is a big example. If they didn't have kings, how many wars would they have had?
Probably fewer.
Probably there would have been some wars because there were kings and queens in Europe.
Right.
Okay. But among themselves, there would have been, well, the English Civil War would not have been. Okay. But they're good people that do good things. They're people that, and then there's bad people. And these bad people, they think of, only of what is good for themselves. So in any group, it depends on who gets control.
It's true.
That's in any group of people. I mean, look at there was, I don't know whether it was, but there was a group of English people came over, and they said, well, everybody is one group. Everything that everybody makes is going to be put into a group, and it's going to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
But the people were segmented into lords, craftsmen, and workers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the craftsmen and the workers worked, but the lords people didn't work. But they got an equal share. So what happens is the other people didn't work as hard, and what they did work, they snuck off.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed it. They said, look, everybody's on their own. If you don't go out there and grow your corn,
You're not gonna have anything.
you're not going to have anything to eat.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're not going to go out there and hunt, you're not going to get meat to eat.
Everybody shows up on harvest day.
Right.
And so
And everything changed, okay? When everything changed, then commerce started, and society, expanded. But before, it was a total disaster because nobody. Why should I support this guy?
Sure.
And his family. Not going to do it. I'm going to make enough for me, and but anyway, it's nice to think about, and I think the human race can evolve, but
Well, and who knows what the values of these groups are? Some may be ultra individualist, capitalist, free market type people who just want to go free of the regulations and sort of like the burdens and expectations that the rest of society has them. Some of them might be religious groups who just want to live according to their traditions, and you might have other groups like what you're talking about who want to try to do things in common. I guess the point is kind of creating some separation between sort of like the global culture norms that you have here and whatever it is you want to produce.
The Russians have a big problem in that, and it's even a problem here, and that's with alcohol and of course and drugs, and but the government over there made, from what I've read and stuff, that they made it so easy for to make vodka, and it's cheap, and the government made it cheap because they make taxes off of it, and it's profitable for the government to have alcohol cheap, but they have a lot of segment of the population that are alcoholics. And even on the spacecraft,
They're bringing vodka.
well, you're going to have human nature, and how do you if you take control of human nature, who is in control?
It is a challenge. I did have one additional question I wanted to ask you, and that is,
Okay.
if you could, would you take a trip to space?
Would I go into space?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
No?
I have,
Was
I have
there
no interest.
was there a time when you might have?
Uh, no. I have no. I can't see any benefit other than saying that I've been to space.
Right. Yeah.
And
Some
how
people-
much value is that?
Some people go to Ontario for that reason. To say I've been to Ontario.
That's true. That's true. But it's not for me. I mean, I've been to place where I've been on at NASA over there. I know where they build the space suits, and you know, because I worked at the MDL over
Mhm.
there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they work on a lot of the spacesuits there, and I'm sure that as the spacesuits evolve, they're going to put them down in the
The water.
water.
Practice this.
So I'm happy living my life. I don't see any need to go there. Why don't I put it on my tombstone? Oh, Dan, he went to space. Big deal. Everybody goes to space now if they want.
I know, it's like, I mean, can you imagine making as big a deal about people flying today as we did with the Wright brothers? You know, like having big bands and stuff every time that people get on the plane and get off, and it's like, whoa! And we're carrying the airline passengers through the streets going, they flew!
I probably would not have been one of those people. I went on my first helicopter ride here about 3 months ago.
Oh, really? Your first helicopter ride?
My first helicopter
What
ride.
motivated that?
Huh?
What made you want to do that?
Well, my son, he's a bartender. He drinks too much, okay, but he's a bartender. And he's a head bartender. He makes a ton of money in that. All of the waiters and waitresses have to tip out to him. They give him a portion of their tips.
Wow. Okay.
So he works 3 days a week, and he makes a ton of money. Okay. I don't know how much. I don't care really, but okay. He has a girlfriend that, for her birthday, she wanted to go on a helicopter ride. So he scheduled. He paid for the ride for two people, him and her. But as it got close, he decided that he didn't want to go.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
And so you went in his place?
All right. He called me up and said, Dan, would you like to go down and do a helicopter ride? I said, yeah, I'd like that. So, you know, since I can't drive on the freeway, I can drive it around, you know, now, but I can't drive on the freeway. You know, he sent an Uber down there, and I went on the helicopter ride. I got the pictures too, if you want to see them.
That's awesome. Did you like it?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, then I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Thank
Okay.
you so much.